Dave McMenamin, ESPN, Larry, Kevin Love, and Kyle Korver, they're going to play tonight?
Cal is we're going to wait and see how he does with warming up. It'll be a game time decision. Kevin did not participate in our shoot around this morning. Wasn't feeling well, a bit under the weather. I just saw him. He said he is a go tonight.
Chris Fedor, Cleveland.com. Larry, you said the other night that finding a rhythm in this last couple of game stretch is very important for you guys. Have you always put a lot of stock into how the team is performing going into the postseason?
Yeah. I mean, as long as I've been in the league, I've seen a lot of different things as far as going down the stretch of a regular season, going into the playoffs. I've seen teams react, with rhythm going into the playoffs and just continuing on. Mm-hmm. I've seen it where rhythm going into the playoffs and, kind of, hitting a little bit of a snag. I've seen coaches that rest players at the end, and then playoff starts. They can't seem to rev it back up. I mean, it's a tricky situation. I've always believed to try to carry some type of momentum into the playoffs. Have the guys feeling good about themselves and what they're doing, and have some type of an idea exactly of what it is we're going to be doing in the playoffs from a rotational standpoint, from a play set standpoint, from defensively standpoint. But other coaches may look at it differently. But me personally, I've always liked going into the playoffs with some type of momentum.
Scott Sargent, WFNY. With the chunk of guys you've brought on who haven't had any playoff experience yet, like Jordan and Larry, how much of it is on the coaching staff to get them prepared for the playoffs versus the guys who have already been in that locker room for so long, who have been to the finals the last several years?
Well, I think it's important for the coaches to get them prepared. But we can only tell them so much about it. But they have got to experience it. That playoff atmosphere is a totally different animal. And those guys who have not experienced that, they're not going to get the full brunt of it until they're thrown in the fire and until they really feel what that playoff intensity is like. So I'm excited, for our new guys to really get a piece of it. For not having had the experience in playing in the playoffs, those guys who are going to get it for the first time, I'm sure it's going to be something they won't forget, because the energy level, the intensity level is much more different than a regular season game. And we as coaches, from a strategic standpoint, we can prepare them and we can talk to them about what we need for them to do. We can talk to them about how hard they need to play. We can talk to them about what it's going to be like. But until they experience it themselves, where they're thrown in between those lines, they won't get the full brunt of it. But I'm excited for our young guys, those guys that have not experienced it. I'm excited for them.
Joe Varden, Cleveland.com. When Ty comes back, what will the adjustment period or feeling out period be like for the players?
Well, Ty's been around the team the last, I would say, 5 to 6 days. He's kind of been gradually getting back into it. I can see that the guys have already embraced him. So it's just a matter of him being more hands-on now once he does get back. I personally, just from what I've seen, it just looks like everybody has rolled their sleeves up and just waiting for him for the day that he comes back so they can get to work. Right now, it looks no different than it was when he left. He's been around the team the last 5 or 6 days, and you can see that the guys have they have totally embraced him, and he has embraced them as well. But I think that I think that filling out period, I think that's over with. I think everybody's geared up these last 5 games.
And then this is in no way an attempt to pit you against Ty or even compare the two of you, so don't take it that way. But you guys are 7-1 since you've been here in this role. So what do you think has gone on? How have you been able? How has this team been able to be so successful without the head coach?
Well, I've said it before. I'm an extension of Ty, and what he has laid out as far as a foundation, it was my job to make sure that that we carried on, and that's all I've tried to do. I've tried to be that voice in his place, and the guys have just responded. I think anytime you get in a situation like this, there's always concern about whether the players will respond to you. It helps having 23 over there because we know that everything rides with him. But I've said it before. I'm just an extension of Ty, and he's laid the foundation of how things are and how they're going to be and what we're doing. And I just tried to do my best just to carry it on.
Larry, you guys are undefeated when taking a lead into the fourth quarter. Why do you think this group is so good at closing games?
Well, it's something we talk about a lot, getting into the fourth quarter, making sure that, from a defensive standpoint, we have to buckle down, number one. Offensively, we have to be the better team as far as executing. And going down the stretch of any game, obviously, you want your defense to be rock solid. But offensively, game's on the line, and it's kind of like, it's like money time. You got to come out of timeouts executing. You've got to be the better team in the fourth quarter. You got to win the fourth quarter on both ends of the floor. You got to come up with the loose balls. You got to come up with the long rebounds. You got to make sure that in that fourth quarter that you give yourself the best chance to win. And whether it's on the offensive end or the defensive end or whatever the last play has to be, you have to make that play. And we talk to our players a lot about about that fourth quarter and what and the importance of it. You can have the rockiest first couple of quarters, that you have. I mean, our last game against Toronto, they scored 79 points in the first half against us. Second half, I thought we buckled down, and then offensively, I thought we did a much better job as execute. So we put a lot of pride in the fourth quarter on what we need to do, because if we're talking about getting to that goal that we want to eventually get to, you have to be good in the fourth quarter.
Do you see something specific with the makeup of this group and maybe the personalities and the traits that they have that allows them to thrive late game situations?
Well, they've shown that they can overcome any adversity through the course of a game, and I don't care how rocky it may be or what the situation is. They have shown that they can persevere through any adversity, and we've shown that all year with everything that has happened with this ball club, and that's something that we look at and I mean, I don't know if a lot of teams or situations like that arise with other teams, but that what we've had to endure this entire season, it was not easy, and yet here we are in a great position, and that says a lot about our team.
Marla Ridenour, Akron Beacon Journal. When you said the guys are ready to roll up their sleeves and get to work when Ty comes back, you mean things he's going to introduce, or I just wondered?
Yeah, it'll be a combination. It's we're going to have to get into that playoff mentality, and getting into that playoff mentality. There are certainly some things that we're going to do differently. There's going to be some things that he's going to introduce. There's going to be some things that we're going to take out. But this is the next chapter, and when that next chapter rolls around, you got to be ready. Not just physically but mentally as well, and you got to be ready. You got to be ready to work. and I think our guys understand that, and we'll make sure as a coaching staff that we get this team prepared as best we can as we get ready for this next chapter.
Jeff Shudell, News Herald. When at the trading deadline, when new players came on, Ty and the players, and you, since you've been here, take over, talked about getting that chemistry with the new guys. So is there still work to be done, or do you think you're at where you want to be with those?
No, we're not where we want to be. No, there's still work to be done. These guys are still, they're still new to the job, and they're still learning, and they're still trying to get an understanding what it is that we want. We know these guys are talented. We know these guys are skilled, but we're still trying to, to find ways how we can best use them within what we do. I think when you look at the makeup of this club now, we feel we have a lot of different weapons now. Obviously, we've gotten younger in making the trade. We've gotten faster. We've gotten more athletic, but we're still teaching, particularly these new guys, the things that that we do and what we try to make sure that from a strategic standpoint that they understand. Defensively is probably been the hardest because we're teaching a whole, we're teaching four guys a whole different concept of what they're not accustomed to. So no, there's still work to be done, but 5 games left. Hopefully we'll get them to that point to when we roll into the playoffs, they have a much better understanding.